Hey everyone, I'm Emmanuel Knafo, one of the co-founders of DevOps Shield, and I just want to follow up on a previous video that we did for GitHub in terms of our new version 2 AppSec and DevSecOps automations and for controls, OWASP, various OWASP controls. So in that first video, let me open up what happened is we basically ended up securing Pygoat Demo 002 and Juice Shop 002. Notice they're all green with respect to secret scanning, software composition analysis, SAST, static application security testing, container image scanning, infrastructure as code scanning, and DAST, dynamic application security testing. That last one is, think of it as pen testing or dynamic testing on an actual environment. So I want to focus a little bit on this part and on what we see on GitHub in terms of the results. So if we go to the pipelines, this was the Juice Shop. Let's start with the Pygoat. Notice that it had added some pipelines and so on. There was one failure, the Zed Attack Proxy, which is essentially normal because it can't guess where your application is deployed. Currently today, of course, we're working on that. But if you look at, it's not very hard. People who are knowledgeable on the software can automatically fix that. So what we had to do was simply, after the initial pull request, update the pipeline. And there's a few hints, but usually at the top, we're going to say what you need to do. So we had to set this to true. It's initially false by default. And in the case, for example, that you're leveraging a container, which is the case here, you could build the container locally and test it locally in that runner, in the agent running the pipeline. So all you need to do is provide this to the target URL. Of course, this is if this is an actual environment deployed on some server or some cloud or whatever, you would replace that with that URL. And in our case, we should also specify the container port and the host port. Okay, so 8080 is fine. You could sort of pick that if it's a Docker file. And to get the container part, just find out what in the Docker file, what the exposed port is. So you see, notice it's 8000. So that was the trick. So that's what we ended up. So we only had to change these two values on line 48 and 52. And that allowed us to be successful for the ZAP proxy. It's the same thing for the other app, the Juice Shop app. It had different values that needed to get changed. If we take a look at it right here. So this was the scan here. And if I open up this, I had to do a couple of changes as well. In this case, obviously, I set this to true. I left this to 8080, and instead I pointed to the container port 3000, which was exposed. All right, so we saw both of these very, very simple changes. And the result of, all of these actions. So we've added all of this through the AppSec, through the DevOps Shield application, right? Through the AppSec or DevSecOps controls automation. The end result is kind of cool. So for example, we're talking about ZAP Proxy. ZAP Proxy, for instance, will create an issue with automatically with all of the, all of the issues explained and the URL and so on. So notice this happening locally. If you put some sort of Azure or some sort of outside URL, those URLs would appear, and you have, the various issues explained right here, or at least referenced. Finally, so that's for the ZAP or DAST dynamic application security testing that was injected by DevOps Shield. Now, unfortunately, we uncovered a lot of debt, which is normal, but in the security, all of the basically all of the tools that were injected in the DevSecOps controls that were enforced on the repository and the application gave us surfaced up all the issues. So, for example, if I come in here in the code scanning, notice I have a bunch of issues. There were essentially 7 tools that got installed. And you can see each of these tools right here. So notice the Bandit, Bin Skim. Some of these things are coming from MSDO that was added. But also we've added the checkoff and template analyzer also are coming from MSDO. But we also added Gripe, for example. And Gripe also yielded some, basically some issues, some vulnerabilities. If I go back, let me go back right here. You can filter, you see each of the issues that were raised. So if you click on this tool here, you could see, hey, I got 3,000. That's why I have such a high number. I have 3,000 vulnerabilities that were raised due to Gripe. And then the MSDO basically did a scan for template analyzer and checkoff. So did some infrastructure as code scanning essentially, and yielded some results here. So you can drill into any one of these and try to see what's happening. So it's going to take you to, for example, in my case, I had a bicep file in here that deployed the infrastructure, and I should ensure that I'm using the right version of TLS, right? In order, for example, to be PCI DSS compliant. So really awesome right there. And all of this thanks to DevOps Shield that had these templates that got applied automatically and work very well with the corresponding platform that you're in, whether that's Azure DevOps or in this case, GitHub. Speaking of which, I'll show you one more feature. Thanks to the automation for DevSecOps control in DevOps Shield, we can quickly build, for example, if you have an enterprise, you can look at your security view, sort of an overview, right? So for instance, if you've ever, for those admins who are, this is my enterprise for that organization that you just saw. And right after I applied the DevOps Shield templates, I started seeing these things creep up right here. So for example, I have my DevOps Shield Juice Shop demo 002 that we just saw in the last video, and the Pygoat demo 002. I'm seeing all the open alerts right here. And you can see other things that are interesting. So for example, in the advisories, collectively for my organization, I'm able to see basically, my top vulnerabilities and things like that, right? And also you can see some SAST vulnerabilities and so on. So yeah, that's it. All of this happening thanks to DevOps Shield. Thanks for listening. We're going to keep posting more of these videos and keep adding more features in DevOps Shield, but I encourage you to try it out. Get it again from the Azure Marketplace right here. If you have Azure, this is a great place to start. The other thing is you can also get it from GitHub. From DevOps, from Docker Hub. Here, all right. So if you come right here, a reminder, just search for DevOps Shield, and that will bring you to our wiki for our free or community edition of DevOps Shield, which includes up to 10 resources. So you can protect a few repos right there in a matter of minutes, as you saw in the previous video. You can, of course, run it locally and so on, or on any cloud. A lot of instructions are here. And as well, reach out to our website. You can come right here on our website, or our GitHub issues. You have that here. In our website, you can, of course, read up on the various features of the product. Even go into the resource center, where you'll find links to a lot of the resources, such as this video.